it's not all men, obviously, but they sometimes feel like they can kind of assume that the girls are going to need more help or like struggle a little bit, at least in my personal experience.
In this segment of Hype's She Is Me college interview series, Mira offers advice on what to do when your accomplishments are overlooked, your voice is silenced, and your male counterparts are being chosen over you in STEM spaces. Do you think your experiences going to an all-girls middle school and taking math and science classes with only girls as your peers, do you think that affected your experience with STEM?
I did. I think it gave me a lot of confidence in middle school, but then being thrown into a co-ed high school environment was a little jarring in contrast because there was so much empowerment for girls in my all girls middle school context. And so to go into an environment in which there was divisions based on gender and there was like assumptions made by the teacher about your skill level based on your gender, it rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. I think a lot of guys are a lot more confident in STEM because it's a field that's dominated by them. So they feel like they can kind of, it's not all men, obviously, but they sometimes feel like they can kind of assume that the girls are going to need more help or like struggle a little bit, at least in my personal experience. I literally remember my math class freshman year. I felt like I was never being recognized for like my intelligence and my skills. And it was the first time really because in middle school, everyone was on that same like playing field and everyone recognized me for my achievements. Like if I did something good and I did something successful in my math class, people would be like, "Oh wow, congratulations! Like you're smart. Like you can do this math like problem." And then I remember going into freshman year and like doing well on the tests, and yet never really feeling that validation from my teacher and my like environment. But I knew in my own self that I was confident in my skills and was proud of myself nevertheless. But I remember feeling like I had to work that little bit extra to get recognition from my teacher for my work.
Hmm. Yeah. What advice would you give to girls who might be in a similar situation where they have the skills, but they're being overlooked by teachers or other authority figures because they are a girl or a woman of color, or just a woman in general?
I think you have to keep working at it for yourself because eventually there are other women of color and women in STEM in general that are in higher up positions, and even men that will eventually recognize your work. You need to work for yourself as opposed to for the validation of others. And for example, had I not continued to like believe in myself after my freshman year, I would never have gotten to my junior year when I had a female teacher who could properly advocate for me and advocate for my abilities. And I think that was an aspect of it definitely in my freshman year that I had a male teacher and like not again, not that all male teachers are going to have this attitude, but I just felt like he was more inclined to call on some of the male students or give attention to and recognition towards them as opposed to me, I suppose. And I really think that had I not had the pride in myself and my abilities and the confidence in it, then it could have hurt me a lot more. But I'm really grateful that I kept up with it and kept believing myself. And I would advise that to other girls like, you know that you can do it. You have seen yourself overcome obstacles before and have seen yourself succeed in STEM, and it shouldn't be an obstacle. Or it obviously is an obstacle, but it shouldn't be as much of a mental obstacle when other people don't validate you because eventually you will receive that validation.
Hmm. Yeah. What was your motivation during those times when you weren't getting that external validation, to continue to believe in yourself and to continue to work hard, even when people didn't necessarily notice it as much?
I think a part of it for me was that I really enjoyed problem solving. Like genuinely, like I wasn't going to stop because like I got such a kick out of getting a problem right or like working on it for ages and then getting it right. And I didn't necessarily need the validation, at least not at that time. I think if I never received it, it would have been a lot tougher. But I definitely think that I was doing the work for myself and not for anyone else. And if I didn't have that mentality or that enjoyment towards it, I don't think I would have been able to continue in the same way that I did.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you think anything needs to change, or if anything, what should change about our education system and teachers and training in order to help girls be able to succeed and feel confident in their abilities in math and science?
That's a good question because I think a lot of the issue comes from more societal problems as opposed to something that like the direct institution is doing. It's the biases that people have in their own minds that just come out in this educational environment. And I think what an individual school can do or an individual teacher can do is attempt to recognize students who have a lot of potential yet are going to have more obstacles in their way. For example, like women in STEM or just people of color in STEM in general, their successes do deserve to be highlighted as much as other students. And it should be encouraged by the institution as a whole to recognize individuals not based on um, anything other than like their skill level. Like it should be taught to teachers to avoid their potential like predisposed biases towards maybe like white students or male students, and it should be taught that they should encourage the people who are most likely going to have more impositions in their career, um, to really like continue working and to believe in themselves in the same way that I learned to believe in myself.
Yeah, absolutely.